Hey guys, it's God Bars here, the self-proclaimed hip-hop historian, and this is the 139th episode of my series where I grab a vinyl from my collection, talk about why I love it, what influence it had, and what its place is in the grand scheme of hip-hop. LL Cool J is a true titan of 1980s hip-hop that I would have had in my first couple groups if I had his debut radio. But sadly, at the time of recording this, I haven't found it on vinyl yet. I slightly prefer his second album, Bad or Bigger and Deafer. That too I couldn't find for a long time. And while I actually have that vinyl on the way at the time of filming this, it wouldn't be here in time to finish off this group of Golden Age classics. So instead, I opted to talk about one I do have on deck and ready to discuss 1990's Mama Said Knock You Out. While he tells us himself not to call it a comeback on the title track, the reason people had probably been throwing that word around prior to this LP was due to his 1989 album Walkin' with a Panther having a more relatively poppy and safe approach, leading a good amount of fans to accuse LL of selling out or losing his touch with the streets and true blue hip hop. But instead of just ignoring it or folding to the pressure, he returned with a vengeance and displayed some of the most technical and aggressive MCing his career up until this point had to offer. I should probably backtrack a little bit to give some background on this dude, because it's easy to just assume everyone knows him since he's so iconic, but to be fair, these aren't exactly recent releases or anything, and just like Ice-T, another rapper turned actor who's been on the page, they haven't had too much play as MCs in the last couple decades. Even still, both are so big as figures in pop culture, I think that the average person would at least be somewhat familiar with LL Cool J, as not many had the rap game in a headlock the way that he did during his heyday. While he was nowhere near the last artist to be brought into the game and mentored by producer engineer extraordinaire Rick Rubin, I do believe he was the first or at least one of them, with LL breaking out into the scene at just 16 years old with his hit song I Need a Beat in 1984. That means he was only 22 at the time of the project we're focusing on today, which makes me feel like absolute garbage, but he had been rapping since he was only 10 years old, so you really can't accuse him of not paying his dues. I'll get more into the general early stage of his career when I cover those albums, but for this video, I want to discuss his fourth studio LP that established he wasn't one of the MCs unable to keep up with the advancing pace of the game. While you could make the argument that Mama Said Knock You Out was a return to form after the lackluster response from critics and fans alike to his third album, it's also worth acknowledging that all four of these albums took place in the span of 5 years, which shows that LL didn't really ever stop grinding for long enough to warrant any sort of comeback. It's a pretty ideal example of an album where the title track functions as a lead single and as the name of the album itself. The song Mama Said Knock You Out was the first LL Cool J song that I ever heard, but the beat still gives me chills to this day, and the sample flip is just timeless. He gets right to the point over this classic Marley Marl beat, giving us one of the most iconic opening verses of any Golden Age hip hop song with "Don't call it a comeback, I've been here for years. I'm rocking my peers, putting suckers in fear, making the tears rain down like a monsoon. Listen to the bass go boom, explosions overpowering, over the competition I'm towering, wrecking shop when I drop these lyrics that'll make you call the cops. Don't you dare stare, you better move, don't ever compare me to the rest, that'll all get sliced and diced, competition's paying the price." I think something that LL did so well that made him so successful was being like a sex icon to women while still maintaining a status as a lyricist and rapper from the streets, which to me at least is more commendable than you may initially think. Because when you really give it some thought, it's kind of a lost art, at least for males in modern hip hop, because I've seen a lot of attractive and sexually open female rappers who also spit absolute heat and at bars for days, but what isn't as common in modern rap is seeing that same thing with a male MC, which I'm sure stems from so many rappers or males in general just terrified to quote unquote look gay. So even just the idea of me calling LL Cool J a sex icon makes them uncomfortable. Even though I pulled that term from a post online I saw where millions of women on Instagram debated who was hotter, between LL and Method Man. It's definitely meth. What I think is applaudable is LL basically said, "Oh, you think I sold out? Well, here's a picture of my sweaty, hairy, shirtless body." Almost doubling down on that idea of, yeah, a lot of my sales come from girls thinking I'm cute, so what? But he then backs it up with his most technically proficient verses to date, and arguably the most innovative and forward thinking set of beats he'd ever work with. While he had always been a talented writer who flourished when he found a theme to hone in on, that aspect also was toned down a bit on Walkin' with a Panther, but brought back in spades on his fourth LP here. He tackles a plethora of topics, including but not limited to critics, fans, fellow hip hop artists, violence in the culture, the pressure and luxuries of fame, and of course, girls. But I think what really makes this stand out as a turning point in Cool J's career is how he organically started incorporating the more smooth and silky style that popular acts at the time like EPMD were utilizing, choosing to go along with the flow of the culture instead of just dying out with the more shout-based guitar stab type of hip hop that acts like him, Run DMC, and Beastie Boys pioneered. He really defended his crown as a top tier name when the tide was changing, and I think a couple lines that perfectly embody that spirit come on Murdergram when he says, "Pass the brass knuckles, let me break his jaw. When I'm on the microphone, I expect silence. Let KRS-One stop the violence." This is definitely one of the brightest spots in LL's career, with a rugged yet modern sound that helped to usher in the new boom bap era instead of rejecting it, which he displays even further by having zero guest appearances, ensuring he had as much time on the mic as feasibly possible. All of the production on here is handled by the legendary Marley Marl, with assistance from LL himself, and there's also a few dope features by Big Money Crip, Bomb, and HIC. Excluding the title track, since I talked about it a decent amount, my top three favorite songs on this one would probably be The Boom and System, 6 Minutes of Pleasure, and Murdergram. For honorable mentions, I want to name tracks like Around the Way Girl, Eat 'em Up L Chill, Mr. Goodbar, Cheesy Rat Blues, To the Break of Dawn, and Illegal Search. Thank you for watching my 139th video. We only have one album left in this set of Golden Age classics, and I definitely saved one of the best for last, so check in for that one. And if you enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know what your favorite moments are off this album that I refuse to call a comeback. Don't forget to have a great day, and I'll see you next time, okay? Alright.